Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where today I figured we could try something quite fun that a few of you have suggested to start up all of the Shmeemobiles and see which sounds the best. We will go through all 11 cars from the current fleet, 8 of which are here. There are 3 others, so I'll do some swapping around so that we can hear them all from the cold starts to a few blips to work out which sounds the greatest. We're talking a variety of different engines from 4 cylinders to 6s, 8s and a 12. We've got cars with stock exhausts, some with switches and some that have aftermarket systems installed. We will go through all of the Shmeemobiles from the Focus RSs and the Supra through the Ford GT, 675 LT Spider, the Senna, the G63, AMG GT R Pro, the Aston GT8, the SLS AMG Black Series and the Ferrari GTC4Lusso. And there is a reason for that order, I will tell you in just a moment, but let's crack on then and see which Shmeemobile sounds the best. We will crack on in just a moment, bringing some of these into life, but just to give a quick overview, up at this end we've got the 3 Fords. We'll get started actually with the Heritage Focus RS, the 2.3 litre EcoBoost inline 4. That car has the stock engine and stock exhaust, but it does come as standard with the Mountune intake. Then we will go to the Red RS, the heavily modified project, completely rebuilt engine by Mountune, and also running an Xforce Varex exhaust system. After the 2 Focuses, we will hop over to the Supra with its 3 litre inline 6, completely standard in that case. We'll come back over to the Ford GT, 3.5 litre twin-turbo V6, and of course you might remember I installed the Akrapovic sports exhaust system on that car when it was out in the USA. Then we'll jump from America over to the UK for the 2 McLarens, starting I think with the 675 LT Spider before the Senna. The 675 has a 3.8 twin-turbo V8, the Senna has a 4 litre. Then continuing the 4 litre twin-turbo V8 vibe, we will go to the Mercedes AMGs, starting with the G63, which also has an Akrapovic exhaust, and then the GT R Pro, which is completely standard. And then we enter the naturally aspirated section, starting with the Aston Martin Vantage GT8, 4.7 litre V8. Then we'll go to the SLS AMG Black Series, which of course is not here at the moment, but with a 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8. And finally, the GTC4Lusso, 6.3 litres of naturally aspirated V12, the 12-cylinder of the Shmeemobiles. So have you worked out the order that I've just gone for? It is of course by cubic capacity of the engine, starting with the 2.3s up through the whole range up to the Lusso. So let's get started then with the Focus RSs, but ultimately get all of these into life. As promised then, let's get started with the 1 of 50 Heritage Edition Focus RS, although I will need to unplug all of the cars from their respective chargers. They're sitting on the CTEX to keep the batteries conditioned, because I'm actually going to be taking all of the cars out to get them cleaned up. None of them have had a car wash for about 3 months. They're all covered in bug splats and dirt, so we're going to get them all tidied up so I can park them back away properly. So let's get started then, and I think I'll open up all of the engine bays so that we can talk a little bit about the engines as we go. Always a bit of fun to see what lies underneath the bonnets, or in some cases in the rear. So let's start off here then. As I said, we've got the 2.3 litre EcoBoost 4-cylinder engine. It's a bit of a test for me to see if I can remember exactly where all of the catches are. Mission success. You can't see too much in here, but like I said, we do have the Mountune intake with the orange accents. For the charger, we've got the smart connector, so I can just release that, open it up, let that go around the side, pop that down there, and then drop it back down. We will go through and start off then in here, bringing this into life. You get some nice little cracks out of this thing. I will just point out, by the way, I did leave it idle for quite a long time to warm it up rather than just revving it straight from cold, as we will be doing with all of the cars. For now though, let's move on from the Heritage to the Red. As the Heritage heads out in the background then, let's just come round here to open up the bonnet of the Red so that I can show you quickly the differences and what we have in here, because of course it is quite extensively modified. Obviously no charger to unplug at the moment, but inside here you can see again the Mountune modifications, the carbon tops, the Pro Alloy header tank, a very cool looking place. But this is all about the exhaust system, the Xforce Varex system, GPS controlled, so you can actually have valves opening and closing. You can change on a scale of 0 to 100% how far you want the valves to be opened, and it just happens to sound pretty good in the process too. So let's take a listen. I was genuinely worried that might set some alarms off. It is pretty noisy when you get those cracks. You can actually control them, you can stop them if you don't want it to be quite so loud. But let's move then from the 4 cylinders onto the 6s. Onwards then to the Toyota GR Supra, the sister car to the BMW Z4. That means it shares a 3-litre twin-scroll turbo inline 6. There's a double pull of the lever down in the driver's footwell. So let's just come around and get this opened up as well so we can take a very quick look at it before we get this fired into life. Reach all the way in, double pull of that, and come around to the front. Not currently plugged into a trickle. This kind of car should be okay for a long period without. But here we have the engine, not all that much you can see, 340 horsepower power plant. But yes, let's get it into life and hear how this sounds. It's funny how these little turbo engines all do that pop and crackle type thing. Of course, when we get to the big naturally aspirated lumps, it will sound a little bit different and quite a lot louder as well. Anyway, the Supra is by far and away the dirtiest of the cars. You can probably just about make that out from the headlights, that this thing is moderately filthy. Actually, the grey paint obviously helps hide quite a lot of that, but it's, yes, it needs a clean. It needs a proper clean, so we'll go take this out. In a way, it is a strange jump then from the single-turboed inline-6 Supra to almost twice as much power from the 3.5-litre twin-turbo V6 in the Ford GT. Now, one of the big objectives with this car was to pack in a tiny EcoBoost engine into this area as part of that teardrop cabin, allowing the car to have these crazy aerodynamics and the flying buttresses. And if we come round, there is actually a button on the key to open up the engine compartment back here, which pops, and we can lift this up, and you can see we have all 656 horsepower coming from the power plant right behind the bulkhead, and a tiny storage compartment right behind it. Not all that much you can see in there, and quite an awkward part to actually close. Well, let's come around to open up so I can unplug the trickle charger from this one as well. Again, we've got a catch down here in the dark depths. Apologies for quite how dark it is down there, but we can come around, lift up this front nose section, where I can unplug the trickle charger. Now, in case you're wondering, all of my cars do have paint protection film, basically, so things like this aren't going to risk any scratches or anything like that to the paintwork of them. Oh, mission to find the catch. Where is it? Where is it? Here we go. Done. Just unplug this one. Again, we've got the smart connectors, which just make things a touch easier than having to undo, let's say, the clamps off the battery connections direct. Close that back down, move this out of the way completely. We've also got the rubber protection on the charger itself, and then yeah, let's get this fired up into life as well. And very quickly before it comes into life, don't forget that this car has the Akrapovic titanium sports exhaust option, the upgrade option that you have on the Ford GT over in the USA that was installed by Galpin when I was out there, and we're going to hear it in just a moment. That doesn't exactly sound bad for a little V6, does it? Yes, it's not the V8 of the previous generation Ford GT, but the Akrapovic exhaust brings it to life, and I would say it sounds fantastic. I'm going to take that on out though now, and next we will talk about the McLarens. Let's have the 675 LT Spider before we get to the Senna, and I'll explain why the Senna comes before the G63 and the GT R Pro. Now, the 675 LT, as the name suggests, is a 675 horsepower, 3.8-litre twin-turbocharged V8. It is the final iteration of McLaren's first new era car, the 12C, which evolved to the 650, which evolved to the 675 LT. The engine, of course, sits beneath a glass window on the rear deck lid, but let's get it started up, take a listen to a cold start, and a few blips then from the 675. Now, I've always really enjoyed that deep throaty grumble sound that you get from the 675 LT, but the best bit is when you're driving it and you get the most monumental cracks when you're shifting through the gears. It's a very awesome experience. But let's go then from the Super Series up to the Ultimate Series with the Senna. Now, the Senna has a slightly enlarged engine, now a 4-litre twin-turbo V8, but the AMGs are also 4-litre twin-turbo V8s. If we go into the details, though, this is 3,994cc, where the AMGs are 3,000 1,998cc, 4cc larger, so we are starting with the Senna. Of course, this is a significant evolution of the 720S, the replacement to the 675. This thing is brutal, it's very aggressive, it is the fastest, most powerful car in the collection without any question. It had a new cage, a new engine, new aero, crazy bodywork. As you can see, it has 800 horsepower, but if we come round to take a quick look back here at the exhaust tailpipes, which sit upwards on the top of the rear deck underneath the wing, so the air comes out and kind of upwards out that direction. European spec cars had those 3 exhaust tips. The bottom is an Inconel muffler, which makes it a little bit quieter than the American or rest of world equivalents, which only have the 2 tips. So this is a bit quieter, but nonetheless, we will take a listen. I think it's a funny one because it is a bit quieter than you might expect such a car to be, but of course it needs to meet track regulations because that's what it's built for. So let's get it started up and take a listen. One thing you notice about the Senna over the 675 is how much quicker it revs, but let's now go to the other cerulean blue member of the garage, the G63, so I need to go and collect that, we'll get a cold start, and then we'll get some revs of it when we get back here. That's a little bit of a cheat, having the cold start in a different garage. We'll have another start up here, but of course the G63, with its 730 horsepower, we're hearing it all through the Akrapovic exhaust. It has the link pipe as well. It sounds unreal, as, well, we're going to hear it in just a second, but quite different from the sound we're going to get out of the GT R Pro just after, even though, fundamentally, they share a very similar engine setup. But let's crack on with the G. What an absolute monster. And the other thing is that because you have the exhaust tips, one on each side, you get this almost stereo effect of those cracks as they go off from one side to the other, the LED headlights fading away and turning off there. But we shall move our attention to the AMG GT R Pro. Being a new car, this has an OPF, which significantly quietens the sound. It's the 585 horsepower stock configuration of the 4-litre twin turbocharged V8. But let's again get this one fired up. Still fairly early stages for the car, so we'll take it a little bit gently and then hear some sounds which I'm afraid to say are going to be a bit quieter than the G. You can see what I mean about it being a little bit more muted, but now it is time for the trio of naturally aspirated cars, the Aston GT8, the SLS Black Series, and the Ferrari GTC4Lusso. Let's do them in that order, starting with the Aston. This is where it's going to start getting really quite noisy, but I realise I haven't actually shown you the last couple of engines, including the Senna and the 2 AMGs. With the Senna though, you can't actually open the engine cover at all. The V8 sits deep back there, but if you want to get this opened, it has to be done by the dealer or at the factory, for example. We will come to the Mercs in just a moment, but before we do, let's talk Aston Martin Vantage GT8, 4.7 litre naturally aspirated V8, and if we come around here, these gigantic titanium exhaust tailpipes that sound monstrous. Of course, you've heard this car before on the channel. Let's open up the engine bay, have a quick look at what we've got going on up there. Again, got to reach all the way in, getting quite practiced at reaching through today. Come around here, we've got the catch right in the centre. He says, can we find it? There we go. And under here, we have an engine that needs a clean, to be honest. It definitely needs a proper clean up inside that engine bay. We had the final inspection done by Dr. Andy Palmer, CEO of Aston Martin, which was awesome. And I think this is going to need to take a visit to Topaz, actually. First time I've looked at it for a while, and I like the engine to be a little bit tidier than that. So that's something to get done in the future. Drop that back down for the time being, because it's time to start it up and take a listen to this beast. That's actually so loud, I feel a little bit guilty because probably people in buildings miles away can hear when you rev the GT8. That is a factory exhaust system. We're going to move though from the GT8 to the SLS AMG Black Series, which is not here at the moment, but I'll have some clips of it starting up with its 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8, 631 horsepower. We'll kick that into life and take a listen to the newest of the Shmeemobiles, the SLS Black Series. Isn't it amazing how different the 6.2 in the SLS sounds from the 4.7 in the GT8? Both naturally aspirated, both V8s, both with factory supplied titanium exhaust systems. Of course, the switch for the valve on the GT8, the SLS being slightly older. Before that, it's just pure noise, and it might get louder in the future. I tell you what though, those both sound truly spectacular. Now though, it is time to add 4 more cylinders and go to the Ferrari GTC4Lusso, the 6.3 litre NA V12. In this case, 690 horsepower, a ridiculous amount for a 4-seat, fairly family-orientated hatchback. I guess we could call it that just about. It's still a front mid-engine mounted Ferrari at the end of the day, and it still sounds spectacular, as I think it is time now to hear. I'm not sure there is anybody else that makes an engine that sounds quite the way a Ferrari does. How quickly it revs up, that screaming V12 sound. And not only that, it is also a work of art to look at as well. All 6.3 litres of bright red V12 sitting back behind the front axle. Just a stunning engine bay always inside these cars. A gigantic bonnet. Of course, for the engine to sit so far back, it needs a very long bonnet to cover all the way over that. Likewise, in the AMGs, the fact that the main lump of the engine, you can't really see much, sits back there beneath the turbos, the 4 litre, again, back behind the front axle, mid-front engine, very much the format that I like driving, as we see in the SLS Black Series as well, that original 6.2 litre V8 sitting back behind the front axle. This car, much cleaner up front, I would say, overall. Let's just shut that down for the moment. Of course, some loud bangs as we close them all up, and then a similar lump, but slightly different, the 4 litre found in the G63. Obviously, in this case, right up front, a much shorter bonnet with less overhang from the driving position than you find in the likes of the sports cars. But let's just close this back down as well and close this into place. So there we have it. We have heard all 11 of the Shmeemobiles, starting with the Focuses and the Supra. We've had the Ford GT, the McLarens, all of the Mercedes, the Aston Martin, the Ferrari. We've had a whole host of different sounds, the naturally aspirated engines, the turbocharged engines. We've had aftermarket exhaust, the likes of the cracks that we've heard from the Focus RS Red Edition and also from the G63. We've had the scream of the Ferrari. We've had the deep grumbles of the Ford GT and the McLaren 675 LT. But how do you choose a best sound of all the Shmeemobiles? I would love to hear your top 3. Rank 1, 2 and 3. Which are your favourites of all of the engines that you've heard in this video? The current crop of Shmeemobiles here in the garage. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed hearing and seeing this video. A lot of fun, of course, for me to get all of the cars fired up, to hear all of the sounds, and to share something that many of you had asked for as well. So I hope you've enjoyed it, but that's it for this time. Do comment your favourites, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!